Good morning. I have noticed that every time we've held this meeting, we've had wonderful weather, so I think that this meeting is a good omen for the sunshine. So we had a dreadful summer, but we've got sunshine today. Anyway, welcome to this meeting of the Stewartry Area Committee on Wednesday, the 18th of September. I would like to let you know at this point that this area committee meeting will be live streamed on Teams and that a recording will be available online shortly after the finish of the meeting. Members may notice that when calling members to speak, I will refer to them formally using their title, Councillor, e.g. Councillor Smith, so that it's clear who are councillors and who by the process of elimination are officers. Remote participants, please follow the good practice guide, which includes muting microphones and switching off your video when you are not addressing the meeting, writing speak in the Teams chat function when you want to contribute. If you are in the hall, you can do this on your iPhone or iPad. Please don't repeat contributions already made by other members. No material should be posted on the chat function if it's intended as part of the discussion. The usual standing orders apply, including any votes will be undertaken by roll call. If any members have to leave the meeting, please either leave the Teams meeting for that period of time or write leave in the Teams chat function and then join when you rejoin the meeting so we can keep track on whether the meeting is quorate. All members should speak clearly, taking their time and speaking directly into the microphone when making contributions. When referring to reports, please provide reference to the relevant page and paragraph to allow everyone to follow. Please focus contributions on areas where clarification is required or to propose an alternative to a recommendation. This morning, we have Dee and Glenkind Ward Youth Councillor, Stuart, Val Walker, and Beth Wright Hall, Youth Councillor. Welcome. Members, before we proceed to the business of the meeting, I would like to highlight that at item 5, a revised appendix has been circulated to members electronically and is also available in printed copy for members in person. This replaces the appendix, which was part of the initial papers and issues in error. Okay, moving on to item 1. Can I ask the clerk to confirm apologies and for the Sedrant apologies, which members are in the room and those linking by Microsoft Teams, please.
Okay, thank you, Chair. We can confirm we have all 9 members present this morning, 5 here in Kirkcudbright, 4 present on Teams. The members present on Teams are Councillors Blake, Campbell, Howie and Young. And as already advised, we've got 2 youth councillors present this morning. Beth Wright Hall on Teams, she's here instead of Harold Whelan, and Val Walker in the room. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Item 2, declarations of interest. Do members have any statement of connection or declaration of interest to declare based on the definition? Statement of connection. For transparency reasons, members may wish to make a public statement. Declaration of interest, members would now require to leave the meeting for that item.
On item 5, Chair, there's an article about Gilbeta Rocks and Wheels. I'm a council representative in that committee, but I don't think it'll have any bearing on the agenda item.
That's fine. Thank you for raising that. Are there any other conflicts? Nope. Okay. Moving on. Item 3, minutes of previous meeting held 15th of May 2024. Members are asked to note the minutes for the last meeting. Thank you. Thank you. Minutes approved. Item 4, Scottish Fire and Rescue Services Stewartry Area Performance Report, 1st of April 2023 to the 31st of March 2024, report by Head of Thriving Communities. Our first report is the annual Scottish Fire and Rescue Services Performance Report. I'm sure members will be reassured to read that overall the SFRS has performed well in key priority areas within Dumfries and Galloway during the period, and that this is reflected in the disaggregated data specific to the Stewartry area. I'm pleased to read that overall there has been an 18% reduction on the total number of incidents reported within Stewartry, with large reductions in all special services and false alarms by 37% and 19% respectively. I'm also particularly encouraged to see the work the community action team are doing with young people around the dangers of deliberate fire setting and water safety education sessions, both within schools and the community. We welcome Chris Ross, who is in attendance, to answer any questions from members. I'll open the floor to members' questions and comments. Councillor Young.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, Chris. I'm aware that for short-term let applications, one of the large pieces of work is fire safety in short-term let properties, some of which involve inspections. Has that greatly increased your workload over the past year?
Could you respond, please, Chris?
Good morning, Councillor Young. Whilst it isn't my specialist area for fire safety, anecdotally from what I've heard from my colleagues in that area, it has indeed increased their workload quite significantly. The number of short-term lets that they need to visit and carry out the appropriate paperwork and certification for. The numbers of which I'm not entirely sure, but I could certainly find them out for you.
No, thank you very much, Chris.
Councillor Young.
Chair, could I please have the opportunity to ask a second question?
Please go ahead.
Chris, one of the big news items nationally is fires caused by lithium-ion batteries. Has there been any fires caused by these batteries bursting into flames in this region?
Thanks again, Councillor. There hasn't been any major or significant incidents with lithium-ion batteries that I'm aware of. However, there's been one or two smaller incidents, certainly one or two that I've been in attendance. It is an emerging risk. The service is actively trying to gather as much information and sort out a strategy for how we deal with these risks. We regularly carry out visits to, or we are aware of sites where there are battery storage sites that are starting to receive plan permission, and we do, certainly myself as officers and fire station do undergo regular training on how they would manage these sort of incidents. But I understand your concerns, and certainly there's certainly concerns of mine. It is an emerging risk, and we gather intelligence by unfortunately attending incidents and how we manage them. If that helps.
Thank you,
No,
Chris. Councillor Young, any comment?
No, just to appreciate the answers. Thank you.
Councillor Drysdale.
Thank you very much, Chair. Good morning, members. Firstly, I'd just like to thank you for the report and the excellent work that's been done, and for the efforts that you've made in working towards safer water safety, and the amount of events you've attended for that, and also attending schools, etc., to help children once they pass their driving tests. I think it's so important with the speeds that we're seeing on the A75 consistently. So I really like to thank you for the hard work and all the events that you've attended. It's been brought to my attention that the Scottish Fire Service is not involved in planning at the moment. Stuart, and I don't know if you can look into this and come back to us with a report of some sort when it comes to the erection of battery storage units for wind farms. And I just wondered if you had health and safety reports available for those areas, because if we have a fire, for example, in the Glen Kens, and there's not the correct water hydrants nearby, it could be catastrophic. So I don't know where we sit on that as far as Dumfries and Galloway Council is concerned, but there are a lot of consents going through for battery power for wind farms at the moment. And I think it's very important that we know as constituents and councillors that the safety procedures and risk assessments have been put in place. Could you possibly answer that today or get back to us via email or a further report? That would be really helpful. Thank you very much. Thanks, Chair.
Chris, would you like to reply?
Morning, Councillor. Yes, we are certainly interested in the stages of the building of these areas, where we are in terms of planning and how much influence we have about hydrants and water supplies and emergencies. I'm not entirely sure, but I could gather that information up and certainly respond in an email a little bit more fully than what I can give you today.
Can I come back in?
Yep.
Thank you, Chair.
Please.
That would be really helpful, Stuart, and I would really appreciate it if, through the ward officer, today we have Stuart attending, if that could be sent out to all councillors, because it's not just in our ward, it's across the whole region specifically, just for safety purposes. Thank you. Appreciate your response.
Thank you. Councillor Drysdale. Councillor McFarlane.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and thank you, Chris, for the report. As usual, it's very comprehensive and covers a lot of areas, and as well as the partnership working that you're doing, it's admirable. On page 38 of our report and page 12 of yours, it talks about fire safety audits, and I'm wondering if those are the same as Councillor Young asked about. And that being the case, because of the requirement for registration of short-term lets, that's now got a 3-year lifespan. So clearly every 3 years you will get a bit of a surge. So I'm wondering what sort of planning you might have for that. Secondly, on that page, you've got acts of violence against your staff, which are numbered at 2, which is low, but not low enough. And I'm wondering if you could give us a little bit of information about that, where it was. And lastly on that, Gatehouse still continues to be a concern in relation to the on-call retained. And I'm wondering where we are in trying to sort of improve the figures on that. Thank you, Chris.
Chris, if you could reply.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. So I'm going to answer your questions in reverse order as I remember them. So a Gatehouse station, it is indeed, it's one of my stations, and it is a concern, the crewing levels there. There was a recruitment event at Kirkcudbright 2 weeks ago where we tried to encourage recruitment to the on-call stations in the Stewartry. I'm pleased to say we did have one applicant, so it's very early stages to see what happens. Just for your information, what happens at this point is we do a suitability discussion and meeting. It's quite an onerous responsibility being an on-call firefighter, so we're trying to make sure right from the start that everyone entering the agreement knows exactly what's the expectation and how much it's going to impact on their lives. So that's the stage we're at with that person. However, we're always keen. I'm keen for anybody who is interested to become an on-call firefighter in the wider Stewartry. Really, just please approach your fire station, and we're more than willing to have a discussion with you to see if it would suit you, or indeed you suit the service, because there is a recruitment issue right across the whole of Stewartry. Acts of violence, yes, the number is seen there is 2. I don't have the exact details of them, but acts of violence, it's quite a wide-ranging topic, so it could mean anything right from verbal through to something very, very minor. I am not aware of any significant acts of violence that's resulted in injury to any of our firefighters in the whole of Dumfries and Galloway in the last 12 months. So I can assume that these are very low figures or very low acts. But we encourage our staff to report everything so that we can identify trends early and intervene as necessary. And then finally, on your fire safety audits. The fire safety teams have a rolling programme. So obviously, you're aware that the 3 yearly visits where they sort of stagger them out so they're not sort of overwhelmed every 3 years. However, with the short-term lets, it's a fairly new sort of legislation, so there is going to be a period of time of where it gets embedded, so they're able to sort of stagger them out a little bit over time and try and change their workloads a little bit. But it's, as I say, it's quite it's a new new legislation for them to deal with.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that, Chris.
Councillor Lowe.
Good morning. Page 34 is road safety. We have the A75 that cuts right across the Stewartry. I'm just wondering what the balance of figures is between incidents on the A75 in terms of road safety and those that are the more rural, windy roads. Thanks.
Chris, if you could reply.
Yep, thank you, Councillor. So the balance really is it's the A75 is really is a busy stretch of road for us, as is the 74 as well. We don't really at the moment we don't really gather data on locations of RTCs as opposed to the actual where we pinpoint them on particular roads as opposed to the areas and wards. So it's hard to give an answer on that. It's certainly a difficult stretch of road, and we do have significant incidents there, but that's mostly caused by an increase in speed on that stretch of road as opposed to a more rural road where the speeds will be much lower and the consequences of any sort of RTC would be much lower. It's just, unfortunately, it's just the nature of the speed of the road, really. If that answers, yep.
Councillor Lowe, any further comment?
Thank you,
Councillor Drysdale.
Thank you, Chair. Just coming in on the last point, on page 23-24, we see the drive that you've had to recruit more women into the system, and I'd really like to thank you for that. I actually know the particular candidate on page 24 who used to be in employment with us many years ago, and I know for a fact I've spoken to her since her recruitment, and I would like to thank the officer in Castle Douglas who approached her in the first instance. She is thoroughly enjoying it, and she's certainly a great asset to the team. So thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
And thank you for those comments. They'll be noted. Can we move to the recommendation? Members are asked to scrutinise the performance report for Stewartry from the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service for the period 1st of April 2023 to the 31st of March 2024, as detailed in the appendix. Are members happy to agree the recommendations? Agreed. Thank you, Chris, for your attendance this morning. Move on to item 5, Economy and Development End of Year Assessment of Business Plans 2019 to 2023 Performance, 1st of April 23 to 31st of March 2024, report by Executive Director, Economy and Infrastructure. Our next performance report is from Economy and Development. This report covers period from 1st of April 2023 to 31st of March 2024. As always, this report covers a range of services and projects that are vital to helping our communities. There is a great deal of detail here that members will be very interested in. The local housing strategy, Dalbeattie Rocks and Wheels project, Carsfin Rural Skills, Cranag Campus, Business Infrastructure Programme, Core and Coastal Paths, Local Place Plans. We welcome Stuart McMillan, Jamie Little and Simon Fieldhouse are available online to answer questions from members. I'll open the floor to members for questions and comments. Members, any comments? Councillor Still.
Thank you, Chair. Just with Jamie being online, page 61 on the projects, Port Road Dalbeattie. Is there any further update on this, Jamie? Or are we still at the same stages?
Yes, thanks, Councillor Stitt. So in relation to Port Road and Dalbeattie, we're still working very closely with the flood risk management team around the works that will be required to the culvert there. The last update we had from them was that the design phase and the scoping out of those works is fairly well advanced following the allocation of funding from the Communities Committee. So we would expect that to progress relatively soon. And hope that there's an opportunity for Cunningham Housing to acquire that land once that work's been completed.
Thanks, Jamie.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, next, Councillor Young.
Sorry.
Thank you, Chair. It's more a general inquiry regarding employment. I'm aware there's a large Windows firm in Newton Stewart who have now got over a year's waiting list for any of their products because they are unable to recruit young people to train as fitters. And I'm just wondering if there is any mechanism in which perhaps Dumfries and Galloway councils can help these firms who are short-staffed to manage up their advertising and application process to find young people or school leavers who are entering, who they would like to train up as fitters. And I'm also wondering if the present the present scheme for recruiting and apprenticeships is holding up applications if some firms are wary of taking people on because of the costs of training them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Young. Do we have a comment from one of the officers?
Let's come in with a quick comment there just to say that we can certainly flag that query up with colleagues in employability that did used to be part of this service, but unfortunately they're no longer within the economy and infrastructure directorate. So I can certainly look to take that query up with Lynn Burgess directly and see if she can get a response to you just in regards to young persons training and apprenticeship opportunities.
Thank you, Councillor. Is that okay, Councillor Young?
That's okay. Yes, I'm surprised employability isn't part of the economy, but that's for another day. But in particular, this firm says they lose very able people to the national companies like BT Telecom and so on, and they can't compete with the huge salaries, the 40k plus salaries that these firms offer after training. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you, Stuart. Macmillan, did you want to make a comment?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. And Jamie's picked up that actually is just following the reorganisation of the services. Employability and skills has moved across into the education resource as well. So it's still the same people that are involved, Lynn Burgess, etc. So as Jamie said, we can pick that up with her. But if anecdotally, if Councillor Young wants to pass us any specific details about the firm that's involved, that would be useful to know. And of course, we were in constant contact with Skills Development Scotland, SOCI and the colleges, etc., around all these issues. So if there's something specific to pick up with an individual firm, I'm sure collectively we'll be able to do that in some shape or form.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Drysdale.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you, Jamie, for the report, and thanks for all the work you've been doing with regards to the ship and getting as many new houses in and across Dumfries and Galloway, and for your quick response times when we have the odd emergency on our hands. With regards to the local housing strategy, page 60, 4.5.1, The SHIP confirms the local authority's objectives for providing affordable housing developments over the next 5 years, and we have declared a housing emergency. Some of us as councillors will be involved in that going forward. I do note that the budget's been dropped from 20 million to 15 million, which is disappointing, but I'm sure we'll do our best to alleviate the pressures we've got. And I just wanted to know, Jamie, if yourselves as officers are involved with planning with regards to the LDP so that we can get the balance right. We have an awful lot of elderly people and disabled people, and we saw at the last planning committee meeting a development turned down because there were only 2 bungalows and accommodation that was suitable for the elderly for some strange reason. I don't know what happened with regards to the percentages and why that development didn't seem to be suitable in many ways, but that's for planning, and I'm sure it will come back hopefully. So that was my first thing, just to ask if you are involved with the LDP teams, which I'm sure you are, Jamie, but if you could confirm that, it would give us some sort of alleviation of worries on our behalf. And then secondly, with regards to the Spring Home development, which we're all very excited about, and we've all spoken to people within our community who are going to be moving there soon and will have jobs at the new Aldi store, for example, which is great. Are we, as councillors, able to have a breakdown as to how many local people got moved there, or is that private information? And also, could we request a visit to the new Spring Home site, or is that not possible? I think it'd be really important. I saw MSPs had a visit there, and I think as elected members, some of us would certainly like to see the site. Thanks very much, Jamie, and sorry for all my questions. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Drysdale. I think you've raised some key points there. There's a number of questions raised. So could officers, Jamie, would you like to start by answering some of those questions?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Thanks, Councillor Drysdale, for the queries, and obviously more than happy to try and arrange a visit to the Spring Home site. I'll engage with Wheatley Home South directly, and happy to also invite all the elected members from Stewartry Area Committee along to that. And if anybody else from within your groups would like to attend, I'm sure we can accommodate. In terms of the new homes and how they've been allocated, again, I would need to go back to Wheatley Home South to request that information to identify who has been allocated into these properties. It will be in line with the common allocations policy, as you'd expect, but I'll seek that data and see how that can be shared with yourselves. In relation to the local development plan, my service sits within planning and development alongside the local development plan team, and we do work particularly closely with them. I would probably say that's the department within the council we work with the closest. We share the evidence base for both the local development plan and the local housing strategy, which is the housing need and demand assessment. That's almost completed. We're just waiting for final feedback from the Scottish Government on that work. But the Strategic Housing Investment Plan does set out a number of commitments, and one of those is a very strong link to the local development plan. Effectively, as new sites come forward, that's the first reference point for anything that we're considering and putting forward to elected members for inclusion in the SHIP. So we do have very close working relationships with the local development plan, and obviously it's a key reference document for us. We certainly don't want to be putting anything, recommending anything to members that would be contrary to information from our planning department. So hopefully that gives some reassurance about the close working relationships between the two services and the two documents.
Councillor Drysdale, thank you. Councillor Lowe.
Thank you. Page 62, place plans. It's good to see that those that have been underway are being, are getting towards their 100%. I noticed that all, apart from Castle Douglas, are very rural settlements. What's been done to encourage the other communities, including the likes of Dalbeattie and other larger communities, to take this on? Can we maybe use the opportunity of the newly elected community councils to try and give this some encouragement as a piece of work? Thanks.
Thank you. Response from our officers? Any comment? No? If not, we'll pass over to Councillor Stitt.
Thanks, Jeff, for letting me back in. It's just in your introduction you mentioned Dalbeattie Rocks and Wheels. This is just for, I'll bring you update. We had a meeting a fortnight ago they put the project out for tender. They've got 6 companies interested. They've now been whittled down to 2, and I think the interviews with the 2 companies are either the end of this month, beginning of next, and they're hoping to either start on site either the end of this year or it'll be started 2025.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor, sorry, Stuart McMillan has a comment.
Yep, thanks for that comment as well, to update the committee on that, and also just as a quick update to the content in paragraph 457, is just to say that the service has been working very closely with LBT Initiative and the Rocks and Wheels project, particularly on the funding strategy. And members might have noted that at the last E&I committee a couple of weeks ago, there was some additional funding allocated to the project from the Council's own capital budgets, and we have confirmed Scottish Government funding as well for the project.
Very good. Thank you. Councillor McFarlane.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Picking up on Councillor Lowe's comments in relation to the local place plans, page 62 and 63, there's a list there of community groups who are preparing LPPs and grants awarded. It's not clear though what that grant is, you know, how much it is. At what point do they get that? Because clearly some are there, such as Crossmichael, who are preparing an LPP just as those above them, who haven't been awarded a grant. So at what point do they get the grant? What do they get it for? And how much might it be? Thanks.
Thank you. Do we have a response from Stuart McMillan, maybe?
Yep, thanks very much. So yes, Councillor, the grant is for £2,000. It comes from the Shared Prosperity Fund that the council manages. That's the UK government funding, and we're in our final year of that particular programme at the moment. The lead community group, whoever is leading the work to prepare the local place plan, can apply for that as soon as they express an interest in preparing a local place plan. And once that group has been visited and advised by a group of officers, which would include an economic development place officer, a planning officer, and a ward officer, they are then able to apply for that grant and get the £2,000 in to start to support them to enable their sort of initial activities to prepare the plan, so arrange meetings, do some consultation work locally, etc.
Councillor McFarlane would like to reply.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank you for that, Stuart. Yes, you said it's from the Shared Prosperity Fund and that was coming to an end. So is there a deadline for that, and should we be encouraging these other groups to come forward and try and get that while they get the chance? Thanks.
Officers.
Absolutely, Councillor McFarlane, and that's what officers are doing. And obviously there is because we have some uncertainty as to what might happen with Shared Prosperity Fund and whether there'll be a Shared Prosperity Fund version 2.0 with following the autumn statement that we're all looking forward to hearing what the content of that is. So for those reasons, we're pushing very hard for communities to engage with the programme and to access grant. We have some funding still available in the year to be able to do that for groups that come forward expressing interest.
Maybe I could just make a comment. I understand the discussion about the Community Council and that some of you may struggle with LLP and with the placement, and so trying to encourage officers maybe to help support us in how to make sure that these funds are made available and that they can be presented to the council. Councillor Campbell.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks to officers for the report. A couple of questions. The first one relates to paragraph 4.5.6, and the first sentence makes reference to the challenges that we have in the Stewartry in terms of affordable housing for local people. And I'm mindful of not drawing officers into a political minefield here, but we have got the ongoing debate now about Galloway National Park. And depending on who you choose to believe, it's either a threat to or an opportunity for challenging issues around housing. And it was just to get an indication from Jamie, perhaps, in terms of the future for Galloway, and potentially if the National Park Authority has control over planning. Are there discussions ongoing within Jamie's sphere with housing agencies and the South Scotland community housing people in terms of the impact that a Galloway National Park might have on that? And my second question relates to paragraph 4.5.8 and Carsfairn Rural Skills Centre. I wonder if we could be brought right up to date in terms of whether the building warrant has now been granted and that construction has started on the Rural Skills Centre. Thank you.
I know that these are hot topics, particularly the Galloway National Park. So thank you. Which officer would like to reply?
Thanks, Chair. I'll come in on the Galloway National Park query from Councillor Campbell. Thanks, Councillor Campbell, for that query. In terms of Galloway National Park, we'll be involved very closely with our planning colleagues just in terms of what the impact will be longer term. It's very hard to define whether it's going to be a negative or a positive at this time because there are so many unknowns regarding Galloway National Park. We can look to other national parks across the UK to understand what their particular challenges are. So at the moment, it's very hard to define whether it'll be negative, positive or neutral. But I'm sure in terms of any recommendations that are taken forward via the council through our planning service in particular, but with working with other colleagues, we'll be able to assess that further as we have more detail. So can't really give a full answer at this point with so many unknowns. But it's something that we're obviously keeping in mind, and we will be engaging very closely with South Scotland Community Housing around that work. They are one of our key partners, particularly in the Stewartry area and the wider Galloway National Park. And I'll probably pass over to colleagues in regards to the Carsfairn query there.
Thank you. Simon, if you'd like to make a comment.
Thank you, Chair. Just in relation to the Galloway National Park, obviously Nature Scott have been appointed as a reporter at this moment in time, and they are busy, obviously, undertaking consultation. There is an online portal that is now active and live that obviously will get details circulated out for. And just to sort of obviously inform members that obviously letters are being sent to all residents that might be affected within the proposed area. This is still just a proposal. No firm decisions have been taken at this moment in time. Nature Scott have got a formal process to go through as outlined by the Scottish Government. So there is still opportunities for people to have their views both positively and negatively in relation to a national park. And as Jamie said, obviously the detail in terms of how this might impact locally is still to be defined. And there will be further engagement for elected members and a report going to full council in December to define the council's position properly.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell. Are you satisfied with those answers? Yep.
I'm sorry, I had a wee bit of interference there. I might have missed, but in relation to the Carsfairn Rural Skills Project, has the building warrant been issued?
Can any of our officers answer that question about the building warrant? Stuart McMillan?
Yep, apologies, I missed Councillor Campbell's initial question. My connection dropped for a minute. I don't actually have much more information than that's what's in the report, but I'll get response to him today on that. It should be relatively simple to check. So apologies, I don't know the specific answer on that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor John Young.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Going back to local place plans, on page 63, the community groups are all community councils, apart from Bittle Quest. How easy is it for non-community council community groups? I know, for instance, there's the Hoch Hub from Hochavar. How easy it is for these groups to apply to submit a place plan and receive the £2,000 funding?
Thank you for the question. Stuart McMillan.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Young. Sorry. First of all, it absolutely doesn't have to be a community council. It just has to be a constituted community organisation, has a bank account, has a group, etc., that can manage the grant, and I suppose has that local mandate to act on and to organise a community to coordinate the work to prepare the LPP. So it just so happens that within Stewartry it's fallen mainly to community councils, but that's by no means the picture across the whole of the region. And so we can deal with an approach from a variety of organisations, I suppose. Thanks very much.
Councillor Young, that okay?
No, thank you for that full answer. I appreciate it.
Okay, if there are no further comments, then we will move to recommendations. Members are asked to 2.1 review the overall summary performance for the Stewartry area for 1st of April 2023 to 31st of March 2024, as set out in paragraphs 4.3 and 4.4 and the appendix. 2.2. Consider the area-based achievements and developments as detailed in the key achievements section of this report, paragraphs 4.5.1 to 4.5.14, and 2.3, consider any aspects of performance to be referred to the relevant service committee. Are members happy to agree recommendations?
Happy to agree.
Agreed. Thank you. Moving on to item 6. Thank you, officers, for joining us this morning. 2023 to 2024 end of year assessment, 1st of April 2023 to 31st of March 2024 of Roads and Infrastructure Service Plan 2023-2024, report by Assistant Director for Transport and Infrastructure. We now turn to the annual assessment for the Roads and Infrastructure Service Plan 2023 to 24. I'm delighted that the inclusive play park in Castle Douglas is being well used and that the changing places toilets is in the final stages. James McLeod is available to answer members' questions and comments. Members, any comments? Councillor McFarlane.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'm sure I said this at the last meeting, but we have a paper here, and on page 71, 4.1, says contains no performance measures specific to a Stewartry area, and I'm wondering why we're wasting officers' time and ours doing these.
Okay, could we have a response from the officer?
Yeah, Chair, thank you. The way that the service works on the roads, and particularly on the roads network, is that is correct. There isn't area specific information provided. If that's something that I can take back to my new assistant director as feedback on this, I will, and I will take that back for you, Councillor McFarlane, and see whether there's opportunities to discuss that and change that approach. So that's pretty much all I can say at the moment. Sorry, that's not overly helpful.
Councillor McFarlane.
Yeah, thank you, James. Karen did attend the last meeting, I'm sure, and again, I raised the point, and she did say she would try and do something about it. So if you could get that back to her, that's great. As I say, it saves your time, saves your efforts, and saves us as well. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor McFarlane. And Councillor Lowe.
Thank you. It's just in reference generally to the roads. We see there is a lot of work going on, and it's quite evident that the programme is progressing. But this is the committee that we need to know how much has been done in our area. Not, after all, we get lists of jobs that are going to be done every week. So surely it must just go back to what's just been discussed. We can get that information a bit more by area rather than, as to how we are progressing. And that's not just the main roads, but some of the really rural side roads as well. Thanks.
Okay, James, would you be able to respond?
Yeah, Chair. Again, through yourself. Yes, absolutely. We obviously provide through on a weekly basis the programme of works. It's just a level of detail in terms of measurement that is what's reported to this committee, and I guess that's the discussion that needs to be had with this committee format. Natalie McHale is the Assistant Director, and at the end of this session I will speak to her about what it is we can report at area committees, because this isn't just an issue obviously for Annandale and for Stewartry Area Committee, but the same approach applies in the other 4 areas.
Yeah, I think that's important to add the comment about the main road and the B roads within those communities where we need to have improvements and to have those reports. And as councillors, I think that's key. Councillor Drysdale.
Thank you very much, Chair. I think the points that are being made by fellow councillors are quite important, James, and we need to take those on board. If we are seeing a lot of work being done in the Stewartry. It seems to be progressing quite well, in my opinion, considering the amount of rain we've had, and everybody's been working really hard under pressure. The one thing I would like to say today is if there is a diversion to be put in place, constituents tend to contact us as councillors, and it makes it really awkward over the weekend when we can't get an answer from head office, for example, and we can't reach any officers. Could I just make sure that you could pass that and escalate that down, that if there's nobody we can contact directly to make sure that diversion signs are clear and that it's made simple, and I'm talking about the B roads, not the 75, because that's not under your remit, and I totally understand that. But diversion signs need to be in place when these things are happening, especially to keep businesses open and vibrant. So if there's some method or way of assisting elected members during road closures with a contact number, honestly, it would give us an awful lot of assistance, especially in evenings and over the weekends, because they're coming to us because they can't get hold of anyone else. I don't know if other elected members feel the same, but thanks very much for the hard work that's been done and the officers that do respond when we try and get hold of them. Thanks. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Drysdale. James, would you like to reply?
Yeah, again to yourself, and thank you for that, Councillor Drysdale. I think that's a very fair point, and I will take that back and discuss with Roads colleagues. I'll pass back your compliments on the efforts that they put in terms of work delivered recently. But in terms of emergency contacts and out-of-hours contacts for diversions that are associated with works by ourselves on the non-trunk road, then that's correct. In terms of the trunk road diversions onto council roads, again, I'll take that up with colleagues in the road service, because I suspect some of that work may be subcontracted to the council as well in terms of the diversion routes established. So I don't think it's unreasonable that there is a contact if there are concerns over diversion routes and it's out of standard office hours. And I think principally I would expect that it would go through the council switchboard, and it would be diverted to the duty coordinator who would be on call at that time. But I think it's a reasonable approach that we can share that kind of information if you are, as members, getting contact directly from the public on concerns over diversion routes.
Okay. James, thank you for those answers. And Councillor Lowe.
Yeah, I'm aware this is a historic report and we're kind of focusing on now a little bit. I am just wondering if we can get a better system that once resurfacing has been done, and it says this road will be resurfaced within this week, depending on weather, that sign can be removed, because often they're left up for a long time, because then should change for the loose chippings one. But a number of signs that are up and people are, particularly non-locals, are a bit confused, is the road still open or not? It's clearly been done, so actually the sign should change. Thanks.
James, did you have a response?
I would just take again, Chair, and thanks, Councillor. Again, that's I'll take that observation, that concern back to Roads colleagues, and I think that as an operational matter is something that we can deal with. If signage is being left up that's no longer relevant, then that's not appropriate to safe travel and ensuring that access is maintained when roads are reopened, if the signage still states that it's not.
Thank you, Councillor Lowe, and we'll make a note of that. Are there any other comments? If not, we'll move to recommendations. Members are asked to 2.1 review the 2023-2024 12-month summary performance for the Stewartry area for the 1st of April 2023 to the 31st of March 2024, as set out in paragraphs 4.3 and 4.4 and appendix. 2.2, consider the area-based achievements and developments as detailed in the key achievements sections of this report, paragraph 4.5.1 to 4.5.2, and 2.3, consider aspects of performance to be referred to the relevant service committee. Are members happy to agree the recommendations?
Happy to agree, Chair. Thank you.
Agreed. Thank you. James, thank you for your participation this morning.
Thank you, Chair.
Moving on to item 7, 2023 to 2024 end of year assessment, 1st of April 2023 to the 31st of March 2024 of Neighbourhood Services Service Plan 2023 to 2024, report by Head of Thriving Communities. We now turn to the annual assessment for Neighbourhood Services Service Plan for 2023-2024. It is encouraging to see the introduction of the Near Me service, which was supported by Kakubri CSC. The project addresses inequalities in communities by providing digital access to communicate with NHS services. I'm also pleased to see that the total number of attendees at Castle Douglas Swimming Pool have increased significantly over the reporting period, and that our customer service centres are working in a variety of ways to provide services and activities to local people. It is also important to understand the vital services being delivered by our financial, well-being and revenues team and the assistance they provide to some of our most vulnerable customers and families. Harry Hay is on Teams to answer any questions, and I will now open for member discussion. Members, any comments? Councillor Drysdale.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, me again. Just with regards to the figures for Castle Douglas Swimming Pool, Harry, it's really good to see the uplift, to see people keeping fit and healthy. And I just wondered if you or anyone else were able to provide us with an update as to what happened with the capital investment with regards to the pool. We had a lot of complaints with regards to it looking a bit shabby, lack of decent working hair dryers, and there was going to be some works done, and I think the community might be quite interested in that. And hands up, I haven't been using the pool recently, so I haven't been for a while, but any updates would be much appreciated from yourself or coming forward in an email from Lee if you don't have that information. Thank you, Harry. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Drysdale. Harry, can you reply?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, so we got a recent update from colleagues in Property and Estate Services that they are currently completing the updated inspection and schedule of works with a view to producing the required tender documents to go out to market. Members will no doubt be aware that the capital funding was previously allocated to this project, and it's at the stage where they're trying to navigate through the tendering process and also liaising with the service to make sure that whilst inevitably the scale of the work that's involved, the facility will have to be closed, we're making sure that we programme that in and work through the kind of comm strategy associated with that to make sure everybody, particularly customers, members, are fully aware of what's happening in timescales. So following committee this morning, I'll get the latest update from colleagues in property and circulate it to all members for their interest. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. This may be slightly off point, but it's a question I'd like to raise, and that is, or comment, that it's good to see that Classell Douglas has an increased participation attendance. What about Kirkcudbright swimming pool? Do we have a similar increase in attendance? Do you have that data? Could you comment on that, Harry?
Thanks, Chair. I can't give, obviously, Kirkcudbright pools operated by an external body. They do provide us with usage, etc., but just simply because of the format of these reports, they're not specifically included in this performance report. But I'm quite happy if members think it's helpful to ask and get information circulated. Thank you, Chair.
That would be appreciated, Harry. I think as councillors, that would be helpful. Councillor Still.
Thanks very much, Chair. Harry, just a wee update on the top of page 79 about registering our marriages, births and deaths. Is this a mixture of face-to-face and online? Because I mind I brought this up earlier in the year, or last year. People were getting denied access to go face-to-face, or more or less getting instructed to do it online. It's just to get an update on it.
Yeah, through you, Chair. Yeah, this is the combined number of appointments, and whilst many of the service users do wish to use digital online, absolutely the service is 100% committed to providing face-to-face appointments as well, where possible, if indeed that's what the families want. But the stats that members have got in front of them today are the combined figures overall for use of all channels. Thank you.
Thank you, Harry. And Claire has just informed me that on page 80, 8.4.4, the last paragraph states that the swimming pool contract, the numbers have declined from 4.7% compared to last year, 22, 23. So that's the latest information, that there seems to be a decline there. Okay, move on to Councillor McFarlane.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just on that, I'm sure the figures will have picked up, because obviously there was a bit of disruption at Kirkcudbright swimming pool, and understand it's running a lot more efficiently now, and with a number of lessons and such like, I'm sure that next year the figures will have improved significantly. Harry, thanks for this report. I'm sure that you didn't write it, because I'm sure if you did, on page 79, you'll have picked up at 4.5.1.5. There's mention of Nisdale Area Committee, and this is something that happens fairly regularly amongst these papers, and understand that a lot of this stuff does transfer across, but really we need officers to sort of try and keep those things right. On 4.5.1.2 on page 78, it talks about 731 cards for the national entitlement cards, and it talks about age group 5 to 22. Is it only the 5 to 22 ones those figures relate to, or does it include those over 60? And yep, I think that was it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McFarlane. Harry, are you able to respond?
Yeah, the stats, my understanding is that the stats included in this report are for the age group, the 5 to 22-year-olds, detailed. Again, if helpful to members, I can get the overall issuing. This is up till obviously the end of March this year. I can request information circulated on all age groups up to date if members found that helpful.
Yeah,
Would that be helpful?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I think it would be. I mean, what we're looking at here is how busy our staff are in relation to how they service the public. And I note that there's a significant increase in the number of visitors that we're having in the area. And I'm wondering if perhaps our customer services centres, are the staff coping, or do they need some support? Do we need some more staff to deal with the demand? Thank you.
Thank you. That's an important point to note. Harry? No? Okay. Well, any further comments? Sorry, Councillor Lowe.
Yeah, bottom of page 78, and it's just a bit of an assumption really. So 4.5.1.3, what was provided by the Customer Services Centre, it makes mention of one food parcel. So can I assume that if there is a local need, they're just signposted to whatever their local delivery service is for a food parcel?
Harry, are you able to reply?
Yeah, the service, and I'll sort of comment on a region-wide basis because it's the same in the Stewartry, that the service, absolutely a key part of what they do is signposting for all support and services to customers who come in. But there are also a number of approaches made by external partners for food parcels to be located within customer service centres across the region. And that varies depending on the location and the partners that operate in that particular locality. So it can be an element of both depending on the location. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Drysdale.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. Sorry, I have one last point that I think is really important that I make today, and I just wondered if you could have a think about this with the Directorate, Harry. I have had quite a number of messages with regards to young people in our ward, particularly disturbed and upset because there are no sexual health clinics that they can visit because the NHS run their sexual health clinic in Dumfries Monday to Friday, 9:30 to 4:30, and they cannot get there on a bus on time. And I'm just wondering if there's an opportunity for this to be taken forward with Dumfries and Galloway Council and perhaps look at the Customer Services Centre for somewhere that they can access some flyers or folders on sexual health, health protection, pregnancies, etc. Because there really is nowhere for them to go unless they can pick up with the youth teams at the schools. And we've had some of our operators offering children's activities feeling a huge amount of pressure in the Stewartry with regards to having to give young children advice where they're not qualified and they feel out of their depth. So we have a young member of the youth team here today. I don't know if he's able to come in and comment if he agrees with me on that. There is a nominated member in the schools that children can approach, but often they feel too embarrassed to do that and they don't want to be seen at their doctors. So it's just a food for thought, Harry, and something that I'm sure we could maybe have some leaflets or flyers and direct children that way, because it actually would be quite a good place in my mind that children could go, young people could, and teenagers could go to. But I don't know if through yourself, Chair, if our young member is able to come in and give some feedback on that. Thanks, Harry, for your consideration of this matter. Thanks.
I agree, and I think Councillor Drysdale raises an important point and question about sexual health. So perhaps we could ask our youth representative, Stuart, Val May Walker, to respond.
Yes, I definitely agree on a lot of those points, especially in regards to the lack of training for most of those who are pressured with these requests for advice and just general information. Not only does the general infrastructure with times of things like buses and schools make it impossible for a lot of young folk to obtain any of these advices or in order to attend any of the projects ongoing in regards to sexual health or a lot of just general well-being. It's also those who are available to provide any of those resources to young folk in the area do not currently have the training, and there is not a support for that training yet.
Okay, thank you for that. Any comments from any of our youth representative online? No. Okay, Councillor Drysdale. Sorry. Harry, anything further from yourself?
Yeah,
to this
thank you,
question?
Chair. Very pleased, just members will be aware, no doubt, that the Youth Issues Service is now part of the Education Skills Community Wellbeing team, and it's part of Thriving Communities that I'm now responsible for. So I will ensure an early discussion with the Youth Issues team just to feed back the points that have been made this morning. And just members' information, we certainly do have a Youth Issues presence at each of our secondary schools across the region. But if there's specific issues about either signposting, training, access to information, and support that young people need in this important area, clearly it's something we'll want to look at. So I'll get the team on the case as quickly as possible and keep members updated. Thank you, Chair.
Harry, thank you very much for your answers this morning. If we can move to recommendations, members are asked to 2.1, review the 2023-2024 12-month summary performance for the Stewartry area for 1st of April 2023 to 31st of March 2024, as set out in paragraphs 4.3 and 4.4 and appendix. 2.2, consider the area-based achievements and developments as detailed in the key achievements sections of this report. Paragraph 4.5.1 to 4.5.6 and 2.3, consider any aspects of performance to be referred to the relevant service committee. Are members happy to agree the recommendations? Thank you. Harry, thanks so much for participating this morning. Moving on to item 8, 2023 to 2024 year-end, end-of-year assessment, 1st of April 2023 to 31st of March 2024, of Governance and Assurance Service Plan 2023 to 2024, report by Assistant Director, Governance and Human Resources. Item number 8 on our agenda is the annual assessment for Governance and Assurance Service Plan for 2023-2024. Key features are around establishment of curator ad litem scheme, the review of polling stations, places, the refresh to corporate resilience and business continuity arrangements, the percentage of HMO license applications processed, and the advice, support, guidance provided by our legal service team. It is also reassuring to read that the Community Protection Retailer Pricing Project is protecting consumers. Sandra Harkness is available online to answer any questions from members. I'll open the floor to members. Questions and comments. Members, any comments? Councillor Drysdale.
Thank you, Chair. Just coming in on the... Hi, Sandra. Thanks for the report. Just coming in on the performance target, which is only at 60%. We have heard from a couple of applicants with regards to licensing. Can you just update us on that? Is it just to do with staffing, or is it because of the issues with delayed paperwork? Just we don't want to be losing any events in Dumfries and Galloway because of the speed of licensing, and I appreciate the pressures that you're under. Thanks, Sandra. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Sandra, can you reply?
Thank you, Councillor Drysdale. If I may refer that back to the relevant officer, I could get an accurate response, as I don't have that information today, but I will endeavour to get that information for you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor McFarlane.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Sandra, looking at page 18, excuse me. Yeah, looking at page 89, 4.5.5, the 20 basket of essential items, do we have an indication as to how that work is undertaken and where that was undertaken? Because that seems like quite a significant and important piece of work in the current economic environment, and I think that it would be worthy of note. Equally, following on from that, under legal services, there's a CAT for the lease of Silver Craig's caravan park in Kirkcudbright and the lease of the Harbour Square stage. I don't believe I've missed any meetings, but I don't recollect those coming through any of the committees here. So I'd be interested to know where we are with those. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor McFarlane. Sandra, are you able to provide a response?
Thank you. Yes, I can certainly provide a response about the community protection retailer project, as that was carried out by my service. It was done by trading standards staff who identified, this is the second year of the project, so identified convenience stores within each ward and local convenience stores specifically, and they did a sample basket of shopping in 20 shops, and what they were doing was comparing the price charged with the price indicated for essential items that would be everyday items by people within that community. They were specifically targeting items where there was a discount advertised. Therefore, if it was on special offer, they would probably target that item depending on what they saw within the shop, not in every case. But what they did find that for a lot of those, especially where they were targeted as being of a reduced price, quite often those were found to not be a reduced price. And it was felt that it's valuable in the current climate, obviously for poverty issues, but because people tend to now pay contactless and don't have a receipt. So these are issues that are quite often missed by people, and certainly people don't complain about them because they're quite often not aware of them. In terms of the second question about the CAT lease of Silver Craig's Caravan Park, I will need to refer that back to officers, and I will endeavour to get an answer for Councillor on that one.
Thank you, Councillor McFarlane.
Yeah, thank you for that. And that sounds really good work that Trading Standards are doing in relation to that. So thank you for that. And you pick up the point about contactless payment and the number of people who don't take receipts. So yeah, very good work. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Councillor Young.
Hey, thanks, Chair. 4.5.1, when you're looking at curators appointing as legal representatives for those who lack mental capacity, do you work with the Dumfries advocacy scheme with these people who may need this service? And it also says that this will be completed, I don't know, by May 24, so I presume that's now fully completed.
Sandra, are you able to respond?
Thank you. Yes, I believe it is completed. I'm not sure if Dumfries Advocacy Scheme is used, but I will find out and feed that back to Councillor Young. Thank you.
Councillor Young, is that okay?
That's okay. Thanks very much.
Okay, if there's no further comments, we'll move to recommendations. 2.1, review the 2023-2024 12-month summary performance for the Stewartry area for 1st of April 2023 to 31st of March 2024, as set out in paragraphs 4.3 and 4.4 and appendix. 2.2, consider the area-based achievements and developments as detailed in the key achievements section of this report, paragraph 4.5.1 to 4.5.5, and 2.3, consider any aspects of performance to be referred to the relevant service committee. Are members happy to agree the recommendations?
Happy to agree, Chair.
Thank you, Sandra. Can I check? Do we want to carry on or take a comfort break? Do people like a comfort break?
Comfort break, yes. Just need to go to the... No,
Okay. Please could we take we'll take a 5-minute comfort break at this point. Thank you. Hi and welcome back. Moving on to item 9, 2023-2024 end of year assessment, 1st of April 2023 to 31st of March 2024 of Community Services Service Plan 2023 to 2024 report. We now turn to our final performance report, the annual assessment of Community Service Plan for 2023-2024. As always, this report covers a range of services and projects that are vital to helping our communities prosper and thrive, and it's pleasing to see that all indicators are on track with no exceptions. I'm delighted to welcome Jackie Williams, who is joining us this morning to talk about how the 2023-24 Tackling Poverty and Inequalities budget supported their Reuse IT project, which refurbishes laptops, tablets, mobile phones donated by individuals and businesses so that they are usable for families, individuals and organisations in need. Jackie, can I ask you to provide your overview now, please?
Thank you. Funding received from the Stewartry Area Committee enabled the IT Centre to contribute to the ongoing costs of employing a refurbishment specialist to refurbish laptops, tablets, mobile phones and PCs which have been donated to us by individuals and businesses and organisations so that they can then be used by individuals and families in need, community organisations and volunteers working in partnership with a number of organisations across the Stewartry. As a result of this funding, we were also able to secure additional funding from the Hollywood Trust, which created 2 paid placements for young people and also 2 work experience opportunities for 1 young person from the Better Lives Partnership and also 1 young person from Douglas High School. We have been able to gift 80 devices to individuals from January to July, working with a number of different organisations, including Dumfries and Galloway Council's resettlement team, NHS Public Health Improvement teams, Dumfries and Galloway Council Young People's Transitions team, Douglas High School, Home Start, Better Lives Partnership, Kirkcudbright Scouts, Kirkcudbright Inclusion Garden, Kirkcudbright Fringe, Independent Living Support and Support in Mind. So it's been wonderful to be able to help so many different organisations dealing with lots of different types of people. We've also been very lucky to be supported by Natural Power and Third Sector Dumfries and Galloway. Natural Power gave us 50 devices to be refurbished and Third Sector Dumfries and Galloway gave us 25 devices which we were able to refurbish. I would like to say that when we get the devices, all of them go through a certified data erasure process before they're refurbished and given out to other people. Obviously, there's also a huge environmental benefit, preventing the e-waste going to landfill. We've helped a number of different people, including unaccompanied asylum-seeking young people who can access language skills and also access education. We've also helped care-experienced young people and people needing to attend NHS mental health support groups. We've also been talking to the NHS and we're just about to start a pilot project where we'll be receiving about 20 or 30 devices from the NHS, which we can then refurbish and give to people in need. And should this be successful, it could open up about access to 200 or 250 devices per year, which we can then refurbish and give to people out there. I would say there's still a huge need for devices. We've also done a lot of work with Douglas High School. They've set up a sort of learning hub which can be accessed by their staff and also pupils. And this is something that we see that we could support in other schools across the region. So thank you for your support.
Thank you, Jackie, for that summary. Do members have any questions for Jackie? Councillor Drysdale.
Thank you very much, Chair. Jackie, thank you so much for all the work you've done. I think Councillor Howie would hopefully endorse me on this. We visited the centre not so long ago and we were hugely impressed, and the energy that the two of you put into the centre is amazing. So it's really to be commended. I'm just wondering if there's any way we could work with other ward officers to have this programme rolled out across the whole of the region, because we've seen how successful you have been in Castle Douglas, and the reach that you have had, you know, is difficult to reach companies and try and encourage them to come and donate their laptops to you. And also through the council, perhaps we could do some sort of PR exercise to make sure that people donating laptops have the confidence, as you've so rightly stated, that their data will be raised, so they don't feel embarrassed or, you know, concerned that any safety issues on their computer or private data with regards to banking, etc., would be exposed. So is there any way we could work on that, Jackie? What are your thoughts? And perhaps the ward officer could come in on that as well. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Jackie, would you like to respond?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Drysdale. We have had a meeting with Sean O'Toole, who is going to sort of champion this on our behalf. We have been talking to a similar organisation to ourselves called the Edinburgh Remakery, and they obviously do a very similar job to ourselves, but they obviously have access to a lot more devices. We are looking at perhaps getting funding that we could have an electric van which would be able to go out across the region collecting devices and bringing them to us. We're also looking at tech donation boxes which could be placed in supermarkets or community areas where people could post their laptops or mobile phones, and then we could go and collect them. So I think there's a lot of devices out there, and if we can securely wipe them, they can easily be passed on to people who don't have any devices. It's just a matter of promoting it and making sure that people know that we're there to be able to do that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Young.
Hello, Jackie. I'm very aware of the wonderful work you do with IT equipment. And when you talked about the donations from a couple of big companies, third sector, and was it Drax, I wondered about the high number, I believe, of unused PCs in the council. And I wonder if the council could donate some of their equipment to your good self. I also wondered if you're able to put any software in these machines you donate, or is that a matter for the individual who receives the donated piece of equipment? Thank you.
Hi, John. Thank you for that. We normally talk to people, and we can help people with software in certain circumstances. John, we obviously talked to the individual or the organisation to see what they want first. So it's certainly something that we can do. And yes, we would be delighted to encourage the council to donate devices. As I say, I have spoken to Sean O'Toole, and I think Sean is taking that forward.
Good, thank you. Any other comments from members? Jackie, thank you so much for your summary. I'll now open up for members. Questions and comments on the main report. Harry Hay, Stephen Jack and Stuart Hamilton are available to answer members' questions, and I'll open the floor to any questions or comments. Councillor Howe. Councillor Howie.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. It's regarding page 95 on 4.5.2 and asset transfers, in particular Meadow Park pavilions and playing fields. These are excellent facilities used by a great deal of community groups in the area, and I'm just seeking assurances that every assistance will be given to Thrieve Rovers in progressing this asset transfer so it can be brought about as quickly as possible. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Stuart.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Howie. I'm happy to pass on your comments to the relevant ward officer in terms of importance you place on that community asset transfer, and perhaps ask for a brief sort of summary in terms of where they're at to date and the offer of the support that's being offered currently through the ward officer and also colleagues perhaps in third sector and other organisations. Happy to get that to you.
Thank you, Stuart.
Thank you. Councillor Howie, is that okay?
Yes, thank you, Chair.
Councillor Drysdale.
Thank you for letting me in, Chair. It was just to endorse that it's really important that we support Thrive Rovers at the moment. We've recently had a list from them with the amount of organisations and facilities that they offer for people in Castle Douglas and surrounds. So if we can get that going, Stephen, that would be great as quickly as possible. It is quite urgent. Thank you so much. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor McFarlane.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Picking up again on, sorry to be pedantic, picking up again on items of accuracy, 4.5.6.4 again refers to Nithsdale, and also 4.5.11. We've got the different place plans, and we're talking about Ringford, and then we talk about Tongland, which is obviously the one. Ringford and Tongland are one community council in themselves. But that aside, 4.5.7.1, the free, warm, closed winter events. I see that we have an event which has been held at Castle Douglas, and I'm wondering if it was possible to perhaps hold more events a bit more widely, because clearly the people who are in need may not have the ability to travel, and as a consequence we should make it as available as widely as possible. If we could consider that, please. Thanks.
Thank you for raising that important point. Officers, Stephen, Jack, are you able to respond?
Thanks, Chair, and thanks, Councillor McFarlane, and apologies for the two errors you picked up, and quite rightly the volunteers, it should say Stewartry as opposed to Nithsdale, so apologies for that. In terms of the winter project, yeah, no, it's a great suggestion, and I'll feed that back to the poverty and equalities team to see what we can do, so thanks for that.
Okay. Thank you. Any other comments? No, we'll move to recommendations. 2.1, review the 2023-2024 12-month summary performance for the Stewartry area for 1st of April 2023 to the 31st of March 2024, as set out in paragraphs 4.3 and 4.4 and appendix. 2.2, consider the area-based achievements and developments as detailed in the key achievements section of this report, paragraph 4.5.1 to 4.5.7, and 2.3, consider any aspects of performance to be referred to the Education, Skills and Community Wellbeing Committee. Are members happy to agree the recommendations?
Happy to agree.
Thank you. Item 10. Stewartry Area Committee tackling poverty budget. Sorry. Yeah. Thank you, officers. Stewartry Area Committee tackling poverty budget monitoring report 2023-24. Report by Head of Thriving Communities. Our next report, members, is the monitoring report on the projects which receive support from the Stewartry Area Committee tackling poverty and inequalities budget. It's good to see that the budget continues to provide significant impact for our local communities. Kimberly Phillips is available to answer any members' questions or address any members' comments. Members, any comments? Okay. Move to recommendations. Members are asked to note the performance monitoring information from projects, initiatives that receive support from the Stewartry Area Committee tackling poverty and inequalities budget in 2023-24 as detailed in the appendix. Are members happy to agree the recommendations? Thank you. Thank you to Kimberly Phillips. Moving on to item 11. Stewartry Area Committee tackling poverty and inequalities fund allocations 2024-2025. Report by Head of Thriving Communities. Our next report includes applications for considerations by members for the Tackling Poverty and Inequalities budget for 24-25, along with the officers' scoring panel analysis and recommendations. This report outlines the progress agreed by this committee in May, including the priority areas for funding, criteria for applicants, and scoring framework for assessment. I would like to place on record our thanks to the scoring panel for undertaking the assessments on our behalf and presenting recommendations based on our agreed criteria for members' consideration today. As detailed at 4.2 within the report, the budget available for allocation is £23,418, and we are being asked to consider the grant recommendations and how best to utilise any remaining funds following the committee decision on these. Kimberly Phillips is here to answer members' questions and comments. I'll open the floor to members for questions and comments.
Chair,
Councillor McFarlane.
Thank you. Just as a means of managing the process, would it be possible to go through each of the applications individually and invite comments on them so that we can work our way through them rather than it being all over the place?
Yes, I agree. That's a good suggestion. Thank you. Appendix 2. So Appendix 2, Castle Douglas. Perhaps you could review those, please, Stuart. If you could take those.
Thank you, Chair. So I think the best way to manage the process would be for members to work their way through Appendix 2. The Appendix 2 provides details in terms of the applicant, the grant requested, and at the bottom of each summary, the scores that are attributed to that. And that at the bottom of that of each application, sorry, the total score is advised, and the recommendation is also advised beside that with scoring panel comments to support that. So if members want to consider the first application, which is from Castle Douglas IT Centre, the grant request was for 7,500, and the award recommendation is for 5,625. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McFarlane.
Yes, we've already just heard about the benefits of this project, and I think it's very worthwhile. Before I started reading it, one of the first things that I wrote down was about sustainability, and I can see that under the scoring matrix, evidence of sustainability is fairly low, but there are comments in relation to their inability to actually generate income. It would be interesting to see if we could do that, but I mean, they have managed to come up with a significant amount of money in relation to the whole project, and it's one that I feel I could support.
Any other comments from officers? Anything you would like to add? Sorry.
Thank you, Chair. Nothing to add, actually.
Fine. Councillor Howie?
I was just coming in to support Councillor McFarlane's recommendation. Quite happy to support this application. They have been established for a considerable time now, and they do a fantastic amount of work across the community, so I'm more than happy to support.
Thank you. Stuart, next application.
Thank you. So the next application for members to consider is from DG Voice. The grant request was for £5,000 with a total project cost of £7,000. The scoring panel, the score is 46, and the panel recommended an award of 2,500, and there's again comments attributed to that from the panel. Thank you.
Okay, members, comments? Councillor Lowe.
Just a general question, because obviously we also sit on Nithsdale Area Committee, so some of these projects that cover across the area, how the monitoring is done to ensure that what is allocated from the Stewartry supports the Stewartry. For example, it mentions about where they give vouchers to, but it mentions shops that we don't actually have in the Stewartry. So it's just how we localise that support.
Comment from Kimberly?
Thank you for the question, Councillor Lowe. I think when we ask them to provide the monitoring once the project is complete, we're very specific about that we're only interested in the information that they can provide us that shows that they're supporting residents of the Stewartry.
Councillor Still?
Just a wee query. I'm looking at the totaling up of the points, and they're not totaling up right, because I've just totalled up when we're on the first one. The total was wrong. This second one, I don't think the total's right either.
I am. Thank you for that question, Councillor Stitt. And that's observation. I've checked the scores in detail and I can confirm that the total scores are accurate. So the total score that you see is accurate. I am aware that it does look like some of the scores are out by 1 or 2 points for some of the summaries. And on checking, the issue appears to be that we use Excel to average out the individual scores. Right. So we need to do a little bit of work on our back office document as it rounds the scores up and down. So I do apologise. But you can be assured that the final score is the score, and either way it doesn't affect the recommendations from the scoring panel.
Thank you for that clarification.
Thanks very much, Kimberly. I just wonder if my arithmetic wasn't as good when I was at school.
Councillor McFarlane, you had your hand up?
No, I was just agreeing. I mean, what I will say is that going through all of these applications, evidence of sustainability is very, very low. And I think perhaps we need to work with some of these organisations to see what we can do to try and help them. Because clearly we won't be in a position to continually fund them. But I mean, I think the highest score for sustainability is 3, which is not very good.
Kimberly, would you like to respond?
Thank you for that observation, Councillor McFarland. I think you'll see under 4.10 of the report, it says that as evident in the scoring panel scores, the applications in this year fund were found to be on average fair, and they could have been more explicit in meeting the priorities. It also mentions there that's especially in areas of sustainability and community involvement. So we have got a commitment from the local locality hub members who've agreed to collectively support the organisations who want to apply in the future to strengthen their applications.
Thank you. Councillor Drysdale.
Thank you, Chair. It's a really interesting project, Kimberly, and thanks for the report. I have got a couple of people who are disabled who've been speaking to me lately. Personally, I hadn't heard of Lemonade, so it's great to hear about that, and I can direct them towards that. Also, I wondered, it says in the report that DG Voice will visit 10 community organisations. Are we able to hear at some stage which organisations those will be, so we can signpost our disabled constituents in the right direction? Thanks. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Next application, or Kimberly, did you have a response?
Nothing to add, but certainly, Councillor Drysdale, that is a possibility for the future.
Okay, thank you, members. So the next application for consideration is from the Wheatley Foundation. The grant request was for £4,500, and the recommendation, from the scoring panel is to award 75% of the request, which is £3,375. I'll hand back to Kim.
Yep. Kimberly, if you'd like to respond.
Nothing to add. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Young has a comment.
Thanks, Chair, and Kimberly, thank you for this comprehensive report. I suppose I'm having my eyes open when I read this, that it said, although we're well served with 4G and 5G, people are still struggling to get online. And really, should it be left to the Wheatley group to support these people? Should we not Should there not be a better mechanism of when we can assist people to get online, or even to find out which households are unable to get online? And I know the excellent work that's done by the Castle Douglas IT Centre, but really that's probably beyond their remit. I'm just wondering, should we not find a way to enable help to get to people and enable them to be online? Because so much now, you really have to go online to process applications, etc. I'm just wondering if there's a better way to reach these people, basically.
Any response? No. Okay. Councillor, sorry, you do have a... No. Councillor Howie? Campbell, sorry. Councillor Campbell.
Thanks, Chair. I'm a wee bit puzzled by this application from Wheatley Foundation, because the stated intention and how to use the money that we may grant today seems to be very similar to what is already ongoing within the region in relation to fuel poverty, clothing, school clothing and digital inclusion. And we've just approved a grant to Castle Douglas IT Centre. Could officers maybe give us a wee bit of background to this application? Are Wheatley applying to all the area committees? And I'm just wondering if maybe we need to put a hold on this application until we've got more information, because I'm concerned that there's duplication, unless that can be clarified. But there does seem to be an awful lot of similarity in this application to what is already ongoing on a region-wide basis.
Okay, Kimberly, can you respond?
Thank you for the question, Councillor Campbell. I'm not aware if the Wheatley Foundation have applied to other area committees, but I am getting a nod from some of your fellow councillors and from my ward officer colleagues that they have.
Councillor Campbell, any further comment?
Yeah, and that's fine, but if I could also have clarification in terms of what appears to be a proposed overlap with what is already being committed to by Dumfries and Galloway Council. I'm really not sure what this application actually means if we were to approve it in terms of, you know, the region-wide financial commitment, which is substantial, to targeting poverty in the 3 areas that are covered by the Wheatley application.
Thank you for raising the point, Councillor Campbell. Kimberly will make a note and raise this with a further response. Is that okay? Thank you.
Just to clear that, Chair.
Sorry, Councillor Stitt, is your comment following on to this, or is it a separate
following
comment?
what Councillor Campbell asked, at Nestdale area, Wheatley Group, Wheatley, whatever you call them, put in an application and they received nothing from Nestdale Area Committee. I think that was right, if I remember right, last week, at Nestdale area.
Thank you for that clarification. Councillor Campbell?
Yeah,
any
if I
further
could
comment?
just come in one more time, Chair. My proposal would be that we put a hold on this particular application until we clarify what appears to be a crossover, and also the decision that Davy Stitt has just mentioned as well at Nestdale. Clearly, there's a concern elsewhere in other area committees about this application.
Okay. Councillor Campbell's proposal then is that we put a hold on this application. Is there agreement from the group? Thank you. Councillor Howie. Councillor Howie, are you able to proceed with your question or comment?
Apologies, Chair, I was muted. No, just agreeing with Councillor Campbell in what he put forward. The programmes that they are putting forward are already in place by other organisations. So it's a duplicate, sometimes going against even things run by the council itself So I do have reservations, and probably look along the same lines as the result that went out from this deal. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for raising those points. Moving on, Stuart, to the next application.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So the next application is from Birchvale Players, and it's for a warm space cinema. The grant request was for £3,300, and the award recommendation was for nil. And there's panel comments to support that recommendation. Thank you.
Okay. Everybody in support of that? Councillor Lowe?
I would have to support that score just because the nature of that it is a scheme that seems to attract people who are able to travel. It's not it's not particularly local. If it were a very focused one, particularly on the local town, then I think it would be better. But a bit of encouragement for them to maybe localise the service. Thanks.
Thank you. Stuart, next application.
Thank you, Chair. So the next application is from Castle Douglas Development Forum for Crannog Steps Up. The grant request is for £5,000 and the panel recommendation is for 50% of that at £2,500. Thank you.
Members, do we agree? Okay. Stuart, next application.
Thank you, Chair. The next application is from Castle Douglas Community Centre. The grant request is for £1,030 for rooms 3 and 4 of the project. The recommendation is to award £515, which is 50% of the request.
Members, any questions or comments? Thank you. Next application.
Thank you. The next application is from Kirkcudbright Development Trust. The grant request is for £7,500 for community partnership project. The recommendation is to award 50% of the request at £3,750.
Members, any comments? Agreed. Thank you. Next application.
The next application is from Glenkens Community Arts Trust for Cat Strand at the heart of the Glenkens. The grant request is for £4,715 and the recommendation is to award £2,357, which is 50% of the request. Thank you.
Members, any comments or questions? Happy to go ahead to the next one.
Thank you. The next application is from Dilrai Communities Properties Trust for digital connectivity. The grant request is for £1,554 and the recommendation is to award 75% of the request at £1,165.50. Thank you.
Members, any questions, comments? No? Thank you. So we've agreed the requests. The only one that we are not agreeing is the weekly group. That's been put on hold. Councillor Stitt.
Thanks very much, Chair. I've just checked in last week's minutes for the Nestdale Area Committee. Wheatley Foundation project come under fuel and digital support. This week it's poverty crisis, but they are still going to be fuel poverty, etc. So it's just a change of headlines, but they got a nil award last week. So.
We'll make a note of that. Thank you. So 2.3. Okay, so 2.3, subject to decisions at 2.2, agree to carry forward the remaining budget as outlined in paragraph 4.11 and close the fund. Are members happy to agree the recommendations? Stuart will make a further comment.
I think it would be useful just to clarify in terms of the Wheatley Foundation's application, whether members are determined to put that on hold, which would then and seek further information for them to come back to this committee for the same application. So the budget would almost be allocated for that purpose at the moment, or whether members are refusing that application at this stage, which would free up budget for members to consider how they would then wish to use the full budget. Because at the moment you're proposing to essentially close the budget, the remaining budget. But if it's only on hold, you may want to reopen at a later stage if you decide not to fund the Wheatley Foundation in future.
Comments from members? Councillor Howie.
Thank you, Chair. I'm happy to propose that we do not award this grant to Wheatley Foundation.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Lowe supports that. Councillor Dougie Campbell.
Thanks, Chair. I was actually going to propose something slightly different in terms of recommendation 2.2, agree awards with the exception of the Wheatley application until further information is provided by officers to clarify the points that have been raised. But I suppose if we do refuse outright, Wheatley would have the opportunity to reapply, but there would need to be a lot more detail than has been provided to us today. So unless anyone wants to sort of second what I proposed, I'm happy to go with Councillor Howie's proposal as seconded by Councillor Lowe.
Thank you. Councillor Drysdale.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to actually support Councillor Campbell on this one because as we, sorry everyone, but as we read in this report, if this money isn't allocated, plus the 1,000 that's unallocated, it just gets carried forward. And we are seeing a period of real difficulty here with constituents. We all know that Wheatley haven't got the funds at the moment to adapt houses for our disabled constituents, to put ramps in, to alter bathrooms, etc. So whilst this is not about that, it may free up other funds elsewhere. So what my proposal would be, it's slightly different to Councillor Campbell, so we might be able to adapt it if members are in agreement. And I think we need the ward officer's guidance here. So what I would like to do is ask if we could have a written and signed document from Wheatley with evidence as to where exactly which constituents, maybe not named, that might be not within our remit legally, but we need to know that that money has gone to those constituents. If that is the case, at least it means that that money is allocated, because my fear is if we don't allocate it today, it just gets carried over to next year, and I would accept guidance on that from the ward officer. Thanks, Chair.
Okay.
I'm happy to come in just before we bring in Kim in terms of the specific budget, but the Tackling Poverty and Inequalities budget at area committee level is entirely at the elected members' discretion as to how it's utilised. Other area committees do have surplus after their first rounds of decisions. Some have a low level of surplus and then agree to carry forward that budget. Others have a more sizable amount of money and agree to either reopen the fund for future applications, maybe with a limited maximum that applicants can apply for, or to open up a small grant fund and delegate to a lead officer in conjunction with ward members to determine applications at a very small level out with the usual area committee cycle. And that's happened certainly in Annandale and Estill, it's happened for a number of years, and in latter years it's happened in Nithsdale, and depending on the scale of the budget remaining, the applicants can apply for either 500 or 1,000 or 2,000, depending on how much budget was remaining. So there are a number of options available to members at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Drysdale.
Thank you, Chair. Therefore, if I may come back in, I don't know how members would feel about this. In my mind, I think I do agree with yourself. in terms of, you know, it seems to be doubling up with what we're asking for. Would Wheatley have the chance to come back in, and could they apply for adaptations to people's houses, for example, or does that not, would that not fall in within the time range if we went with your recommendation, Stuart?
So if members refuse the application before them today, it wouldn't prevent Wheatley coming back with a future application to this committee for a different project or for an adapted project, but I think the committee would be clear that they are refusing the application in terms of the project as it currently stands, but they could reapply in future should members wish to reopen the fund for future applications determined by the committee. If it was determined perhaps through a small grant fund out with the usual cycle of area committees, they would still be eligible to apply, and again that would be generally the recommendation would be for that to be delegated to the lead officer in conjunction with the relative ward members and also the chair and vice chair.
Thank you very much for that clarification. Thank you. Thanks. I think I'd be happy to propose that then, which is option 3. So I don't know how we go ahead in doing that, but I don't know how. I'd like to hear what other members think. Thank you.
Councillor Stitt.
Following what Stuart's just said, I'd be quite happy to refuse the Wheatley group and just carry the money forward for future projects at maybe a certain budget, either £500 or £1,000, regarding what's left in the kitty.
Kimberly?
Thank you, Chair. Just to confirm, according to my maths, although you might want to check that, the remaining fund will be £5,005, so that is enough to open for a small grant scheme if you wish to, and if you don't award to Wheatley today.
Thank you. So we will carry on with the 3 proposals that we have. The ward officer's proposal, can I just check, Claire, the process in terms of clarifying those options?
Right, okay, I've got, well, there was a motion proposed by Councillor Howie, seconded by Councillor Lowe, and that was not to make an award to the Wheatley Foundation and essentially agree all the other awards as detailed for the recommended awards. There's then been discussion on a possible second and third way. Councillor Campbell was proposing to agree the awards with the exception of Wheatley, but this was to be placed on hold for them to clarify. There hasn't been a seconder for that. And then there's been another option proposed by Councillor Drysdale, I believe, that essentially it's still not awarding Wheatley Foundation, but that money then gets carried forward to be used for future projects in the small grants fund. So unless members tell me otherwise.
Thank you, Chair. My understanding is that's correct, so that'd be a counter amendment, I think, from myself. But that is that correct? I could be wrong. But that the ward officer, the chair and the vice chair would be able to consult, and then possibly through ourselves consult with our other councillors for it to go through, and Wheatley could therefore reapply within the timescale. Is that right? Thank you.
Councillor McFarlane.
Yeah, thank you for letting me in, Chair. I have some concern in relation to the processes that we're adopting at the minute, because we trust the scoring panel to look at these applications, to score them, and then to come back to us with some recommendations. It would appear in this case that we're rejecting the application on the basis of the applicant rather than the benefit or the good that it might bring. The scoring that's been done is perhaps not the highest score that's been allocated to each of the applicants, but it is certainly above some of the others that we've already approved. And I'm just concerned about our consistency and our perception of, or sorry, the public's perception of how this might be seen in relation to it being targeted at the applicant rather than the benefits of the beneficiaries. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Farland. Councillor Lowe.
I'd like to basically support the third option then, saying that we don't make the award, but the money becomes available for small grants. So it's just an extension.
Okay. Councillor Campbell.
Thanks, Chair. Gosh, this is getting very complicated, isn't it? I still think the question hasn't been answered in relation to the duplication that I referred to initially. But to make things easier, I'll withdraw my proposal and support the third option from Councillor Drysdale.
Thank you. And Councillor Young.
Thanks. I agree with Councillor Campbell. It's getting a bit messy. What concerns me is that some of the proposals are suggesting we carry the money forward. I don't think that should happen. I think that money should be available as perhaps a small panel decides. But I think the money still has to be available, and decisions on allocating small grants be made by ward officers with reference to the chair and the vice chair. So I suppose I would second Councillor Lowe's proposal.
Thank you. So just to double check then, Councillor Drysdale's proposal, have you been able to note that, and could you share that with us, please?
Thank you. I believe we're all uniting on the third way, which was a proposal by Councillor Drysdale, which has been seconded by Councillor Lowe. That was not to make the award to the Wheatley Foundation, and that money and the remaining funds, which was outlined by Kimberly earlier, would be carried forward in those terms into a small grants fund for future projects, with decision delegated to the ward officer in consultation with the chair and the vice chair.
Members agree with the proposal as stated? Thank you, everybody, for your agreement. We'll now move on. And first of all, thank you to Kimberly as well. Item 11, 20 miles per hour, 40 miles per hour speed limit scheme. Lockfoot, various speed limits. Traffic Regulation Order 2024, report by Assistant Director of Transport and Infrastructure. Our final report today asks that we consider a traffic regulation order for Lockfoot. Joining us is Tony Topping on Teams to answer members' questions and comments. I'll open the floor. Oh, you're actually with us in the room. My apologies, Tony. We're glad that you could join us in person. Floor is open. Councillor Lowe.
I'd just like to propose that we accept this as it is. There is a bit of precedent in the sense that there were routes into Kirkcudbright that have had the same treatment over the years, and I think it's something we need to look at in all our 20-mile-an-hour schemes of slowing traffic in a couple of stages, not straight down to 20. So I think we should accept it as it is.
Thank you. Councillor Howie.
Very much the same, Chair. Happy to support this. I noticed the objection, which I don't really agree with. It makes sense to have a step down from 40 to 20 as opposed to going from 60 to 20. So I'm quite happy to support this as it stands.
Comments from Tony? Any comments from Tony? Sorry, could we just go back actually first to Councillor Young? I see your hand up.
Well, thanks, Chair, and I'm also happy to support this. What I wondered, obviously with Crockett Ford having a road closure, an awful lot of heavy goods vehicles went through the small village of Lockfoot. Would it be possible to put a permanent sign up saying route not suitable for HGVs? But, I'm happy to support the 20-mile-an-hour speed limit.
Thank you. Councillor Drysdale.
Thank you very much, Chair. I take on Councillor Young's point, but I don't suppose that's part of this discussion today. I think as councillors, the three of us, and I know it's all of Stewartry, but in our ward we have spoken to the Community Council regarding this, and because the road is so close to a school, the 40 in principle seems to be very much supported. So I think we need to go through with that. And as Vice Chair today, I know as councillors we have been speaking to our roads officers, and it's not actually the officer that's here today who would be in charge of looking at the HGV access on the C1N. So hopefully after this committee meeting we'll get some response from the emails that we've been sending to officers separately on the use and inappropriate use of that road at present, especially when there are diversions and at other times, because we do need to look at the signage. We are not in a good place at the moment on that road. So this would certainly help, and I would support the proposal and recommendations. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that clarification. Our youth councillor, Stuart.
I would like to agree with that, as well as mention that the general state of the road is not in its best case. There's plenty of potholes and just debris that have been on parts of that road. I was travelling down there just the other day, and there were also HGVs along that road, despite there being signage saying that it was not suitable for such. As such, I would definitely like to highlight the need for more clear and more visible signage saying that it is not suitable for HGVs, as well as more checks of that road, at least in the now, for its current state. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Drysdale.
Yeah, thank you for coming in on that. I think the whole community is in support of that, and ourselves as councillors, we're keen to try and put some sort of weight restriction on that road as well, because it's becoming hugely dangerous. But again, that's for a debate, and possibly we could bring that back to another area committee. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, everybody. Tony, any comments or responses?
Yep, thanks, Chair. Yeah, I was just going to say that the temporary speed limit has now been in place for 18 months. And I have been out there on a couple of occasions, and the local residents I've spoken to were keen for it to be made permanent. They have noticed a reduction in speeds, and they were happy with the 40 buffer zone as a step decrease in speeds. So as I said, I've driven it myself a few times, and I think the 40 is appropriate for that section. The width of the road environment, when you're entering Lockfoot, suggests you shouldn't really be going much more than 40 anyway as you approach the bend in. So I'm happy that the recommendation goes through today. Thanks.
Thank you. It's important that we consider community safety, and road safety is essential. So move to recommendations. Members are asked to 2.1, note the advertised various speed limits, Traffic Regulation Order 2024 Appendix 1. 2.2, consider the objection received in Appendix 2. 2.3, consider the response to the objection in Appendix 3. And 2.4, agree to the implementation of the various roads, Lockfoot, various speed limits, Traffic Regulation Order 2024 as advertised in Appendix 1. Are members happy to agree the recommendations? And with the HGV information, yeah. Good. Thank you, Tony, for your attendance. Item 13, any other business deemed urgent by the chairman due to the need for a decision. I have no further business, so that concludes the meeting. Could I thank you all for your contributions? Our next meeting will be held on Wednesday, the 20th of November, 2024. Have a good rest of the day. Enjoy the sunshine.
Thank you, Chair.